Chabad, Lubavitch is well known for putting a lot in writing, writing. And of course, today, wherever you go in Israel, perhaps elsewhere, you can always make sure you're going to get at a street corner a Breslov pamphlet on some topic or another from Rebbe Nachman. Why did Gershom Scholem particularly spend time, and why was he interested in both Chabad and Nachman of Breslov writings?
Well, that's an interesting question because it touches on Scholem's whole approach to the study of Hasidism. Scholem's published works on Hasidism at this point all fit into one volume. There's quite a bit of unpublished material in his archives, which are also in the National Library, in which some of it is people are working on publishing it, but it certainly was not his main focus. His much bigger focus was earlier, either ancient, medieval, and early modern Kabbalah before Hasidism, although he did write about Hasidism, and he collected an enormous amount of Hasidic books, including huge collections of Chabad and Breslov, neither of which he wrote about very much. Why is that? So according to Yosef Dan, who was one of Scholem's early students, Scholem just simply didn't get around to writing about all the things in his library. He has many areas of his library where you see he collected a huge amount of books and didn't write very much about them. We could add to the two you mentioned also the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, and the Maharal of Prague, of which Scholem has huge amounts of their books and books about them, but wrote very little about them. Chabad and Breslov, however, he has really huge collections of. And that's interesting because Breslov, for example, in the early part of our century was still a tiny Hasidic sect or Hasidic group that had very few followers and actually very few writings. Scholem in the 20s or the 30s, I have to check, wrote a pamphlet in honor of Martin Buber's 50th birthday entitled Ele Shemot. These are the names, which was a bibliography of Breslov works, and he only found 150 books published by or written about Breslov, which now there are thousands and thousands. However, he was very interested in Rebbe Nachman because of Rebbe Nachman's creativity as a writer and because of his sort of unique personality, his dynamic personality, all that kind of attracted Scholem's attention. When it comes to Chabad, the story is a little bit different. Chabad writing, which is infinitely more systematic than Breslov writing, is also highly Kabbalistic in an overt way. When Scholem mentions in a couple of places that really, other than Chabad, Hasidism is really taking Kabbalah and applying it more as a way of life. It's not so much systematic Kabbalah, although there are other exceptions as well, such as Komarno. But he writes about Chabad, especially about Rabbi Shneur Zalman, the Alter Rebbe, and the Tanya, and his other writings, that here you see someone who's taking Kabbalah, especially the Kabbalah of the Ari of Rav Yitzchak Luria, and revamping it so that it is more applicable to human life, so to speak. He talks about it as kind of a psychologization of the Kabbalah, taking Kabbalistic principles which talk about, in a sense, about the Godhead and applying them to human psychology, spirituality, and devotion. So Chabad interested in him, I think, because it was more overtly Kabbalistic than most Hasidim, and Breslov, I think, more because of the personality and the kind of the interesting writings of Rebbe Nachman and his followers, Rebbe Natan especially, caught his attention, but he really wrote very little on either, other than the bibliographic work that he did on Breslov.